she's supposed to. Okay, it's been months. It's been months. I'm going to tell you why it's been months. But I hope you've been well. Class is back in session. Welcome to Nicole Talks Fashion. I want to tell you why it's been so many months. If you've been following me, you know the last video I posted was the Met Gala Reawakening Fashion, where I talked about the theme and how it really brought up a question of how do we reuse garments that maybe are falling apart, they're deteriorating, but they mean a lot to us. How do we think about the fashion system in terms of sustainability, and how do we really move forward in the system of fashion? How do we reawaken clothes of the past, pay homage to them? I brought up the points of privilege and being able to acquire vintage looks, and in general, the theme I was discussing brought up really important points, very relevant points in fashion when it comes to the system. Okay, what happened after I posted that video is Vogue soon announced that they wanted to add another layer to enrich the theme about the short story, A Garden of Time. This is where things got interesting. So I decided, okay, great. I'm going to talk about this story. I read the story, and it really was very, very enriching to the theme, very relevant to the social situation we find ourselves in. I said to myself, I will wait till after the Met Gala, and then I will bring up this new dynamic, and then we'll get into the looks, okay? Because if you guys don't know, I do Met Gala looks a lot, okay? But here's what happened. The Met Gala got canceled, socially canceled on social media. Now, I am somebody who has been well aware of the Palestine genocide happening way before October 7th, and I've talked about it on different platforms. This really rubbed me the wrong way, and it's not because I don't care about the cause, it's because it felt very performative to me. If you study political mobilization theory, you know that there are different phases to actually mobilizing a political movement, okay? Yes, there's the awareness stage, but then the stages move on into different parts of the movement, okay? For example, the consolidation period, having a leader who helps direct what we need to do, what we need to focus on, who are the main actors, it moves on, okay? At this stage, everyone is aware of what's happening. Everyone is aware. And it felt very performative to me because, first of all, it didn't end with anything. Nothing came from it. Nothing came from canceling the Met. It rubbed me the wrong way because here we are canceling one of the most successful female art events in history. And it is led by the girls and the gays. Do you really think they're the ones behind all this? And everyone was poking at celebrities like freaking Zendaya is in charge of Israel. But this is how they framed it. Look at the elites. They have all the media power while people are dying. That's how it was framed, and I'm somebody who has dedicated so much of my work to fashion because I know fashion is a really beautiful way to communicate ourselves. It can be a soft way and a unique lens to talk about issues that are sometimes very complex. It's a medium, and we wanted to cancel the medium. Why? Not because we wanted to solve this issue. It was performative. It was moral signaling with no real action behind it. This was my problem. And so I was really reflecting on the nature of this social movement. What does this say about us in society? What does this reveal about what we do when we feel helpless? Because that's how we felt. We felt so helpless that here we are, everyone knows what's going on, but still nothing's changing. It's because we don't understand political mobilization. There comes a point you have to target specific actors who are behind this. That is how you change things. What we like to do as a society, though, when we feel helpless, is we go for the easy targets. Do you think we would cancel a football game? Has that ever happened? We protest football. You think the guys would let that happen? No. But no, fashion, arts, design, that's what's targeted because these are the people who actually want to hold space for people, the artists. The artists are the people who want to make people feel better, make people feel seen. That's why people become artists. They express themselves because they have a mutual pain that probably a lot of people feel, okay? And now I want to talk about the Met Gala and what the Met Gala does. The Met Gala, being one of the most successful art spaces, it creates a medium to discuss the situation that we are in a way that we can see how are people responding to the situation we find ourselves in society. This is a space where art, fashion, politics, global culture, local cultures, they all collide. Yes, it's glamorous, but it's also a celebration and an inquisition into the human experience, the human spirit. So we decided to target that instead of target the people who are actually responsible for the systems that perpetuate this. Okay. And this was such a lesson for me that there is a lot of performance when social issues like this come up in the world. Now that we are in a digimodern context, which if you don't know what that is, we are in a society where we now have the power, thanks to short form content, to make quick videos. Anybody can do this that are engaging, digestible, and coherent from everywhere, everyone around the world. And the algorithms are prioritizing engagement, engaging content. So if it's relevant, if it's something relevant to what's happening in society, oftentimes you'll see videos talking about, these social dynamics. But this has bred a performance of morality that has nothing to do with actually being a problem solver and more about signaling. So this is where I've been thinking about this dynamic happening, and I'm becoming more educated on what is really good activism and what is performative activism, because just because someone says it's for a good cause doesn't mean it's for a good cause. I think it was extremely sexist, and I think a lot of it stemmed from jealousy. And again, you'd never see them canceling a football game. The men would never allow it. The people who are actually in charge of all of this stuff happening would just never happen. It would never be allowed. So there's a point when, yes, awareness is effective, and I recognize that. But at this point, where this is, everyone knows what's going on. It's not effective. Now you're performing morality. And I'm not even that mad anymore, although, okay, talking about it brings up some feelings. But when I think about it, this theme for the Met Gala, I'll get into it, was spot on. It was so spot on. If you read A Garden in Time, and if you really thought about what it was saying, and then you thought about how society reacted to the Met Gala, it was the most poetic Met Gala that has ever happened. The theme transcended the event. Let's talk about it. I'm gonna talk about this theme in depth. I'm sorry it took me so much time. I had to realize these things. I had to empower myself to defend a subject I know a lot about, okay? I know fashion is not frivolous. I know it means something. I know it's about communication. I know about the semiotics of fashion. I know it's a medium to talk about hard things. And I know that celebrities are not all bad, okay? A lot of these feelings people had really stem from jealousy. I understand jealousy more. So I'm gonna talk about the theme. I'm gonna talk about the looks. I'll do what I typically do for these reviews, where I categorize it and we talk about main themes, main conversations being had through the embodied looks. I'm really excited. I feel like I have found in general more of my voice. Certainly a struggle I've had is feeling like I can vocalize myself. Even if you look at my early videos, I'm very stiff, I'm a bit meek, I'm afraid. I think it comes from me not wanting to, I don't like hurting people's feelings. However, the problem is when you behave like this, people take advantage of you, they overstep. This whole platform is in defense of fashion. It's about you taking control of your styling. It's about exploring the history of fashion, why they came to be, what society is saying through material culture. It's about looking at social theory. I am not gonna accept any more of these types of statements about fashion, and I am so happy. I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm here now today saying, we're gonna talk about the theme, we're gonna talk about the looks, we're gonna talk about what they were saying, and you can make your own judgments on if you liked it or if you didn't. That's okay. That's okay to have a different opinion on somebody's look. It's okay. But don't stop the medium of communication. Don't stop the medium of communication. So the Garden of Time. I have to break it down a bit because it's such a key framework for understanding all the looks and what everyone was communicating. So the story follows a count and his wife living in a grand, privileged villa filled with humanity's greatest achievements. Art, architecture, literature, music, all preserved in this sanctuary of beauty and refinement. The villa is almost like a world apart where even the sun shines more brightly. In the distance, however, there is an angry mob, a chaotic, disorganized mass that looks like this black blob slowly advancing towards the villa. To protect their home and humanity's treasures, the Count and his wife rely on the villa's magical time flowers. When a flower is plucked, it temporarily pushes the mob back in time, delaying their arrival. But these flowers are finite, and as the story unfolds, the couple exhausts their supply. With no more flowers left, the mob finally reaches the villa, destroying everything in its path. The couple then transforms into statues, a fragile yet enduring symbol of what they tried to protect. Here's the poetic irony. The cancellation of the Met Gala became an embodiment of this struggle in itself. The Met Gala, much like the garden in this story, serves as a fleeting refuge for beauty, creativity, and cultural expression. A brief moment of pause in a chaotic world. But when society's collective pain and helplessness clashes with the celebration of art, it revealed just how precarious these sanctuaries are. This is why the cancellation, although it was frustrating, actually was so deeply poetic of this entire theme. How do we preserve beauty and art in a world of turmoil? When things go wrong, we feel very angry about the arts, actually. We want to destroy it. We feel it shouldn't exist. How can this exist while simultaneously so much despair is happening? We have a hard time as human wrapping our minds around that. And we get very destructive. We live in a physical world. Resources are finite, and so much struggle happens because of that. Kind of like the struggle of our human experience is the material world and material culture. And I think one of the most beautiful ways of combating that is through arts and is through making beautiful things that inspire us and remind us of the things that actually are not physical. Do you guys see what we did? I feel like people are missing it. And now I'm going to comment on celebrities because they were a huge target of this cancellation. First of all, I'm sure you can understand there's a lot of jealousy around someone who gets a lot of attention. Why is it celebrities get this attention? You need to think deeper. You need to think why. Through their work, celebrities have come to be symbols in themselves. So they actually represent group identity experiences. And the Met Gala very carefully selects people who are representations of these different social groups. And it's so fascinating to see how they interpret the themes because it's like seeing a piece of ourselves in this theme. It is like, in an extension, we are also at the Met Gala. Is it exclusive? Yes, it's exclusive. It's exclusive because to be a top craftsman in design, in art, it's not easy. It's not easy to reach that level of skill. And we get upset when we can't all get a piece of it. Ironically, the Met Gala and how they film it, how it's online, how it's become a digital experience too, is literally the best they can do to disseminate the ideas they are exploring at the museum, which you can also go to later. You can also visit the museum. All of this is to raise money for the museum. It's a space to express our humanity. It's an art event. It's a medium. So let's get into the major categories of dress. As we begin analyzing the major categories of dress, first, let's articulate what this story is posing to society, aka to the celebrities. Are you contributing to the creation of a new era for humanity, or are you devoted to the preservation of what has already existed? And what this is saying is, really, do you believe in the goodness of our ancestors? Are they worth saving and remembering, or does that memory come at a cost of exclusion? That question is tough. To forge a new way or build on the base. Now I'm going to get into categories. Please keep in mind these are macro categories and there's a lot of subtleties that can be explored with all of the looks, but I think these are the main ideas. The first category are those who aligned with preservation. They're saying, let's not forget or disrespect the past. Those are seen in the embodiments of the time flowers, seeing the sparkles, the crystals, those kind of looks. The artifacts, those are the references to architecture or the arts. White looks to symbolize a timeless purity, perhaps a comment on a shared sense of humanity, truth, and peace, especially when juxtaposed against the black references. I'll get into that later. The count looks, These are embodying the count or the person who is living within this privilege. I think a great example within this theme is Kim. Her look features a sheer gown intricately adorned with shimmering metallic silver flowers, resembling the crystal time flowers from the Garden of Time. The gown's fitted, corset-like structure emphasizes her signature silhouette, while the soft gray wrap draped over her shoulders adds a subtle contrast and a sense of delicacy to the ensemble. The silver floral detailing creates a reflective, almost ethereal quality. By choosing a look inspired by the crystal time flowers, Kim cements her role as a symbol of timelessness in pop culture. How her beauty, like the time flowers, can pause the chaos, and I really think of her format of reality TV and the escapism within that. The second category are those who align with forging a new path. Those are seen in the embodiments of black, black and red, red. These colors reference the destruction of the mob, the blood, the passion, the pain, the chaos. There was embodiments of the mob representing society and the collective pain. We saw deconstructed formal attire, which referenced the count and the end of current figures of power, as well as power structures. Finally, there were colored flowers, which is a more optimistic approach, symbolizing perhaps the beauty that can bloom in a new era. In focus, I want to bring up Nicki Minaj. When you look at her work, her career, she really was a trailblazer for female rap, and I love that she embodied colorful flowers because it is quite a statement of what happens when we challenge the status quo and the beautiful new forms of human expression that can emerge. I also want to bring up Doja Cat's look. She got a lot of hate online for this, but actually it was one of my favorites. She's essentially recognizing the structural issues in society and the pain we are all feeling. I think if people would have assessed the theme for what it was really about, they'd appreciate her look and actually the fact that she has solidarity. I also really appreciate that she wore, I think it was organic or regenerative cotton, to make a statement about the fashion system and how we need to look at what's sustainable. So she really approached the theme holistically, and I love that. Another look I found interesting within this category was Michael Shannon. He wore a Balenciaga look. I have mixed feelings about Balenciaga, but what I will say is that this is a fantastic example of designer alignment within the theme. Balenciaga under Demna is constantly trying to challenge taste and have us rethink what high fashion is. So it's perfect he's wearing a ruined traditional suit with a bag of cheese and onion chips. The taste looks perhaps ugly or pungent, but maybe it just looks this way because of where we're currently at in society. He references the prolifertarian owning high fashion. It's absolutely on the side of structural change. Very artistic. I appreciate that. The third category embodied time and the inevitable. In this context, it's the inevitable end, and with time, something new is coming. It's interesting looking at the example of Tyla embodying this. I don't know if it was my favorite for her. She's essentially the new girl on the scene, especially at that time, and the symbolic layering could communicate her time may be a fleeting moment. Or, and I prefer this for her, she's coming to take the spots as the queen in her field. She's part of the new wave. So either interpretations could be at play, and it kind of just depends where her career goes. Yeah. I wish the best for her though. The fourth category is the negotiators, who seek to find a medium between the past and the future. This can be seen in black and white embodiments, symbolizing the relationship of everlasting human truth and chaos. There was also a mix of crystal flowers and regular flowers, representing a balance of preserving humanity of the past and embracing humanity of the future, and its beauty, and appreciating both those things. In focus, we have Anna Wintour. Anna Wintour's look at the Met Gala 2024 was pure art, and I find sometimes when we think about the Met Gala looks, we sometimes focus on the most grand, and we forget the subtle commentaries that are pure artistry. Now, she is the one hosting the event. She's the editor-in-chief in American Vogue. She's a major facilitator of culture. She wore a black coat covered in colorful flowers, symbolizing the embrace of chaos and the recognition of new cultural contributions. However, her base remains white. She still respects fashion of the past, the path our ancestors created as important references of our shared humanity. She wears a crystallized time flower pin, recognizing her position as a guardian of fashion history and artistry. She will pluck the time flowers if need be to protect what has come before us. This balance of embracing what is new while respecting what has been in this outfit, being who she is pure artistry and a master of fashion communication. Do you see, after we explored these categories, how they all give us a window to explore what path we can take when we're faced with a conflict, when we're faced with a social dilemma, What are our options? Do we always need to be destructive? Do we always need to be forgiving? Which is helpful? Which is hurtful? Do we need to be angry? What does that look like? How is that going to be? How does that feel? Does it feel removed? When you see these looks, do they feel removed? Which many people online were saying these people are all removed. And actually a lot of them were just trying to say how they're on your side. These categories speak volumes about the struggle of society. Through their choices, these celebrities weren't just wearing outfits. They were representing something. They became symbols of resilience, chaos, revival, and the tension between holding and letting go. In a time when society feels so frustrated, the communication of fashion can be such an important way to express what is sometimes very difficult to say with words. Let's not dismiss the Met Gala, this theme, these looks as something frivolous. Let's look at it for what it is. It is one of the most successful art events. We can see how different groups of people respond to the situation we're in. We tend to think we're all on the same page. We're not. We're just, maybe some are a little more vocal than others, but there's many different ideas on how we move forward. And perhaps each idea is valid and important at different moments in the journey of healing. But it's hard to really see that with words. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry I took this break. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope this resonates in the right way. And I hope you begin appreciating presentation for what it is and seeing material culture as what it is, because it can be a beautiful way to understand other people and understand ourselves. Please subscribe if you like thinking about fashion like this. Give me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.